As anime fans, I think it's safe to say that many of our first loves involve action series in some way. In my generation, it was catching a glimpse of Inuyasha or The Big O when I should have gone to bed. And although Z to me means Z fighter rather than a generation, I have to let the kids have their Hero Akas and their Jujutsu Kaisens too. Because after all, whether it's the palace invasion or the Shibuya incident, we love watching it all the same. Here are your nominees for Best Action of 2023.
And the jury and the public winner is Jujutsu Kaisen Season 2.
So what I usually say after the winner's revealed is that, oh, that's not very surprising, is it? Right? But for me, this actually is kind of surprising because all I've ever heard about is how like the production seems to be falling apart and how this season isn't as good as the last season. Are you surprised by this, Ina?
No. So I'm very surprised by you saying that you're surprised. I feel like Jujutsu Kaisen is
The like
has
obvious
been
winner.
like that it's been the anime like fandom's baby for the like half of the year.
I have seen a lot of memes, a lot of Nanamine, a lot of Gojo.
Lobotomy Kaisen, yeah.
Sarah, was this pretty far and away the front runner when you first started, or did it come more gradually?
I see. I'm not actually surprised that it won for both. Even though I hadn't watched it, I heard a lot of things about it, and a lot of jury members were pretty positive on it when we started. Yeah, so a lot of jury members were pretty positive on it going into it, and then after everything was watched, there was some discussion on first and second place and how that would go. But overall, people were pretty positive with Jujutsu Kaisen.
Okay, well, Ina, explain why you were not surprised. Like, what's so good about Jujutsu Kaisen
Jujutsu
other than Gojo Satoru?
Oh, well, okay. Well, now I have to actually think about it. Jujutsu Kaisen, I feel like, is the dictionary definition of battle shonen. The entire second half of season 2 was fight after fight after fight. No room for even characterization and dialogue. Like once the Shibuya incident started, no beats were taken. It was just from one fight to the next. No air to breathe, no room, which I think is a big critique that people have for Jujutsu Kaisen. But if you're looking for action, it's season 2. That's why I'm not surprised.
Now, Sarah, I see that Scott Pilgrim Takes Off is in second place. That's loosely based on the movie, right? But it takes a different direction. Did y'all have to watch the movie for the jury?
The person who recommended Scott Pilgrim suggested that we watch the movie ahead of time, so the jury members did watch it. And so it did come into discussion when we talked about the show and what things it does a bit differently.
Do you think your viewing of the show was positively influenced by watching the movie? Do you think that added to your experience?
I think so, just because some of the relationships were explored a bit more or a bit differently. So, like a lot of us already had like a kind of an idea of the characters, and just kind of seeing how they get developed over a longer time frame was interesting.
What do you think about Scott Pilgrim, Ina?
I really, really enjoyed it. I think, as Sarah said, that the show just enhanced a lot of the characters. It honestly gave so much depth that the movie didn't, because the movie, of course, it's like you only get to spend so much time with like such a big cast. But yeah, and even the fighting, quote unquote, in Scott Pilgrim defined like their characters in a way, if that makes sense. And I don't know. Yeah, you don't need to watch the movie to watch Scott Pilgrim Takes Off, but it definitely makes it better.
Well, see, Scott Pilgrim made me realize that I'm stupid because so the movie, right? It's mostly about Scott. I mean, he's the main character, right?
Yeah.
So going into the show, I kind of expected that to be the same. So I was looking forward to more Scott. But the problem is Scott is like a big time asshole, right? Like that's his like whole thing.
Mhm.
So when it ended up being less about Scott, my first initial reaction was one of, oh man, I'm a little disappointed. When it rather should have been, oh wow, they're really fleshing out these other characters. Ramona is more than just your standard manic pixie dream girl now.
Mhm.
And when you look at it from that lens, I really appreciate it for what that is.
Yeah, like I will say that the second half kind of felt a little rushed in a way, but overall I did enjoy it.
Did you have any questions for Sierra about any of the other nominees?
Demon Slayer's at the bottom, huh?
Where it belongs.
Yes.
I will like I do have my qualms with Demon Slayer. I even have a video saying like I have issues with it, but I feel like where it makes up for the bad stuff it is in the action. So I'm curious.
So with Demon Slayer, with the jury, it got a lot of praise for its action scenes and how like dynamic they were and how interesting they were. Some of the criticisms that some people had were with the new characters and how they didn't really stand out as much, especially compared to previous ones. Some people felt that there was like less of an emotional impact when it came to those kinds of fights, especially compared to other entries in the category.
I definitely see that.
And I will reiterate that the way that we do rankings here is that every category is based on best of and not best at. So while we've categorized these all as action, we're not actually looking for the show that does action the best. We're looking at the best action show as a whole, so we're looking at overall quality.
Definitely. Then I get why Demon Slayer's at the bottom.
And it's at the bottom of, quote unquote bottom. But if you think about how many shows come out a year, the fact that it's made the top 8 is quite
Definitely.
remarkable. Yeah.
Mhm.
Especially because that the ending scene is really like I don't know. It was a big I don't know how much I can say. I can't say very much. It felt cheap is what I'll say.
Yeah, I can get behind that. I'm losing a lot of love in a way for Demon Slayer, but like you're gonna catch me watching it every new season. I get like it's a love hate.
Now, Sarah, this is just mostly to inform people, but I want you to explain exactly what Gridman Universe is and why it ranks so high.
So Gridman Universe, there's two initial seasons, I guess you can say. Gridman and then, I don't know if I'm saying this right, Dynazenon?
Dinah Xenon, yes.
Okay. And this Gridman Universe is kind of like a crossover, if you will, with the two different casts and teaming up with a common villain and seeing the different fighting styles between the two different groups and how that plays out. One thing that we thought that it did very well was the interaction between the two casts and how it fleshed out some characters in certain ways and also gave closure to certain characters. And just it was a fun way to see the two different dynamics kind of melt together.
Now, I will say the reason it is last in the public is probably not a discussion of its quality, but the fact that it did not release in theaters. It's a movie, and it went to like straight to Blu-ray. So the Blu-rays were legally obtained by all of our jurors, and we urge everyone to watch the original shows because they're really good. SSSSS, I think there's too many S's, but Gridman and SSSS Dynazenon. Now, before we leave off, we've had a good discussion on a lot of different shows. Ina, I'm gonna accuse you of bias because I've
What?
seen your videos, and this is a direct quote. Okay, this is regarding to Gojo Sato. I just want to see a baby gazelle lay on his abs. This is a thing you said. I think it's in a PowerPoint.
I will I will not deny it.
we can't trust your opinion. I don't think. I think it's void. A gazelle on his abs?
Do
Are we sure
you
he even
not
has
want to
abs?
see? Yeah.
Okay, I don't know where I'm going with this. Thank you so much for coming back. We really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
And thank you, Sarah.
Yeah, thank you for having me too.
All right, that's it. We're moving on to the next category.